I don't think it's a trend. I don't think I'm gonna make 5 films about it. So it just happened. For Paul, imagine you're me and you meet somebody like this.
Yeah.
It's not about sexuality, it's about an original person.
Yeah.
So how it happened, I was dating someone and that person was always like, oh, I'm very tired, I'm gonna call Paul. Who's Paul? And then she told me that she has an agreement with this guy and he can give her a lift anytime she wants, 24 hours a day. Who's that guy? And then finally I found him, he came to my place and he told me his whole life story. So when you hear something like Paul's story, I want to make a non-judgmental documentary about an original person. But what does it mean to be non-judgmental?
Yeah.
Because when Paul is telling you these things, you can be like, oh, good subject. You can be like, oh my God, and be shocked. And in the end, the film will be like that, which is not good. What helped me is that I have, let's say, my basics, not a pro, but BDSM world, swinger lifestyle, all this stuff, I know a little. So when Paul is telling me his kinks, I'm just listening to him. Oh, interesting. Oh, yeah. And my director of photography is the same. So we're like, oh, yeah. So the film became extremely, not conventional, but banal about an extraordinary lifestyle from a person. So when you watch the film, you're like, oh, this is normal stuff. Because of my way of making it, I think. So that kind of summer, it happened because I read a book. This film is because I met this guy. The question is large, but I love to simplify these complexities that you just put in your question.
Yeah.
I like not to listen to those and just make a film that is extremely simple about somebody we would consider marginal. The filmmaker behind the film doesn't consider it's marginal. He thinks it's worth making a film, but he doesn't think it's marginal. He doesn't think he needs to explain the audience something about sex that he would think is new. Nothing is new. Everything is oversimplified or overcomplicated when we talk about sex. And I like to make these films just like, hey, look, it exists. And for 90 minutes, I'm going to show it to you. Do what you want with it. But the problem would be if I want to make something political, something that is shocking, a very bourgeois or boomer approach, like, oh, look, BDSM. So that's how I approach something complicated, make it simple. There was somebody before you. The way she asked a question meant that, Denis, if you say it's a non-judgmental approach, it's a total cliche to say that. Right. I should stop saying it. People should stop writing it because we make so many filmic choices that it becomes political and it becomes a judgment. But in this particular case, everything we film is on screen. So it's very bizarre to answer. It is non-judgmental, but there are no choices that are so strong that it's not. So I still think it's non-judgmental, but I think it's a cliche to say it like that.
Okay. But
no, I would never say cinema is truly objective. It's funny because I grew up with a lot of Iranian cinema. Now my very good friend is Matthew Rankin, who just made a film about Iran culture. Where am I going with that? But growing up with these, let's say, Iranian films, there were so many manipulation in these films, fascinating manipulation. Growing up with these films, I discovered that you can never say that cinema is completely objective. It's funny that you're Iranian because I learned that from that cinema. And when you just said that this film is changing maybe Paul's life in a way, I don't think so. I think he feels better because he has a film about him, but things are changing so slowly in his life. We are 8 months later and he's still making the same reels on Instagram. He's not really changing much.
Yeah.
He will not understand how this film is changing him, but we know it's good for him. So things are not concrete, things are not political, things are not...
Yeah.
And of course, subjectivity is everywhere. And I used to make interviews and say, documentary doesn't exist.
Yeah.
We make so many fictitious choices. The ending of the film is me. One scene in the film is completely fake, and you don't know which one. The burlesque dancer, completely organized by me. So you can feel that it's a documentary made by someone who's obsessed with fiction. And a director who is afraid that the whole film will be about Paul. My ego is still telling me, I would like people to watch the film and say, oh, it's a Denis Côté film. Like you saw my signature in it. And I'm strong enough to, okay, it's maybe more a film about Paul and we are protecting him and the way I made the film is a little bit more classical. But I would love people to still say, I recognize Denis Côté. So I need subjectivity, I need control, I need manipulation. There's no way it's objective. Things I would change is I didn't know the subject of our relationship with image would be so strong in the film. I didn't know that all the dominatrix would come and create some content and they would be as obsessed as Paul with their phones. I thought it would only be a film about Paul doing cleanings for dominatrix and then he's getting beaten. But suddenly the anxiety is even with the dominatrix. The way they use their phone, the way they are not controlling but using Paul for their own content, that surprised me live on set. So if I knew that they were all like that before making the film, I would have made something a little more complex. And then it's a film I made right after I had my kidney transplant. So I was like, hey, we need to do something quick. And I'm always like that. So the films are not always well prepared.
Yeah.
I'm fascinated by my subject. The camera is fascinated. We make it quick, the film is over. Because I think the film is interesting because it's we didn't prepare anything. And that's a quality. When you over-prepare your projects, they kind of die along the way. So your question, would you have done something different? Let's just say no, because I like the impulsion of just doing a project. So sometimes you can be wrong, sometimes you can miss something, but I'm fast. I made 16 films in 20 years. You see, I talk fast. I think I want to keep that impulsivity when I work. And it's when I give interviews that sometimes a person like you will open doors of comprehension of my own films to me. I used to be a film critic. Our job is to give intentions to films. But most of the time the directors are like, what? Because our film is here.
Yeah.
But you have and you're helping me understand my film. That's why it's a job I respect. It can be hard to read a bad review or somebody accusing you of something. But film criticism will always help filmmakers see new things about the films they made. And that's why I think I never say something bad about film critics because I did that job. But when it hurts, it hurts. You have to live with it.
Yeah, exactly.
I see what you mean.
Yeah.
If we make so many films about the subject of sexuality, what's sacred anymore about our sexualities?
Exactly.
Should I give this interview to you and being very openly telling you that I do this and that? And I came this close to tell you what this and that is. Or should we just keep our sexualities to ourselves and that is beautiful about sexuality? I like your question. Should a film like Paul be shown to everybody and why? It's a very good question. I don't have the answer. I made the film. But I just hope we watch the film and we're not confronted by our own choices of sexuality.
Yeah.
And the more films like that you watch, the more you can become nervous because you think your own sexuality is boring, vanilla. Oh my God, some people are so much more open than me. You should not behave like that when you watch cinema about sexuality. But I kind of agree with you. We should have less films that are trying to understand this, and just do our own shit, you know? Well, because I'm from the Western world, I'm condemned to see the big authors from Cannes. I'm condemned to see the old Kiarostami film I didn't see. I'm condemned to tell you Panahi is the best one. So it's my Western point of view. So I will always say good things about great classics of Iranian cinema. But the 25 films that were made in the last 2 years, I don't have that. No, I saw Sacred Fig because Sacred Fig was in Cannes, but I would like to be like you and make sure to put this film into a perspective, but usually we can't because we don't have access to that. It's a bit like when people were talking about Xavier Dolan all the time, Xavier Dolan. Okay, but you're not able to talk about Quebec cinema, right? No. But so obviously these big filmmakers are always our references. So sometimes I remember telling a Chinese person, "Oh, I really love Jia Zhangke," and he was like, "Oh, you don't like him? You're Chinese, you don't like him?"
Yeah.
You have your perspective as an Iranian person. Maybe you hate the film that we all loved, but my Western point of view is a bit condemned to watch the big films, and that's it.
Okay.
Or talk to Matthew Rankin.
Thanks.